Kurt, you're back.
I'm back. So excited. Thanks for having me.
Be careful with the shifting around. I know you're a big
boy. I'm a big boy.
Can...
I've been coming to terms with my bull in a china shopness. It was always very embarrassing to me, and now I'm trying to own it in my 44th year.
Why don't you pull back like 2 inches?
All right, here we go.
44 years old. I never would have guessed that. You're not very gray.
Not too gray, no.
If you didn't have such amount of facial hair, mountain manning,
yeah,
I would never have even seen the gray that is on you. But I haven't really seen you without a hat that much.
It's true.
So.
With a hat on and fully shaved, I get carded at bars.
Really?
Yep.
What kind of carding? Like, do they give you their card? Hey.
Sometimes that happens. Yeah. When I play at the Transact, sometimes lawyers will give me their cards from the late night, later afternoon folk jam. They'll be like, "Hey, dude, let's jam." But no, I don't really get cards. I get asked for ID in the United States. So yeah, I guess I was blessed with reasonably youthful looks.
Yeah. What about me? Do you think I look youthful?
I think you do. Yeah.
But what do you think in 5 years when I'm 44 if I'll be youthful? I think that's going to happen?
I think so. Well, yeah, no, I think you're going to continue to look youthful. I think we probably were both older looking 11-year-olds, right? Did you have that?
I actually think that people who in their 20s always look older.
Yes, that's right.
I always think that when you're in your sort of even late teens to 20s, you make these sort of decisions to look older that just really don't help. Sideburns being the first one for men.
Oh, God, a sideburn. Yeah, that becomes... And then, we grew up in the era, too, of, certain kind of, cultivated old manness was very cool, Tom Waits.
And for women, it would be, 1940s dresses.
Yes, 1940s dresses, kind of... certain kinds of haircuts.
And, kind of the Betty Page,
little Betty Boop.
You'd wind up looking 40 years old. Actually, the Betty Boop, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. The Betty Boop is a teen thing.
It was very common, and...
we can't talk about teens we only got another 2 minutes of legally being able to talk about teens, so
it's so true. Epstein, right? Hashtag Epstein.
That's actually something I was going to ask you about, but maybe you saw that in your show notes.
Not good for the Jews.
What's new with you? So you're Kurt Newman.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow we have this show at the Transact. Often we perform in the day at the Transact.
On Sundays, yeah.
You've played This Is Another Time. I've asked you to come by and play some music at the end. Are you comfortable with that?
I love it, yeah.
Would you say music is your passion?
Yeah, it's always been my passion. I've done some other things in my life, and I've tried to avoid being a musician at times. Did some academic stuff and some politics and things like that, but I maintain interest in those. But yeah, these days I'm in Toronto and trying to make a go of it as a musician, so... it's kind of what I'm doing. So,
do you ever find that you're leftist, socialist, Marxist, Maoist?
Oh, so much, yeah.
Taoist, Taoist.
All that.
Palauist.
Like a rice pilau, like a nice...
pilaf.
Pilafist.
Politics have gotten in the way of you getting into certain... bands.
So interesting. Yeah, you mean a blacklist, like the old McCarthy days.
Are you blacklisted?
Yeah.
In the famously conservative world of music, especially the type of music you're playing, which is basically rooted in, I don't know if it's rooted in, people like Woody Guthrie, who are basically
communists.
Communists.
Yeah. It can be I'm kind of working up to being a full-time bluegrass country kind of person. In that world, it can be a really big problem. And so my mentor in all of those things, this guy named Ivan Rosenberg, has been kind of modeling for me a way that you can sort of keep your politics and stay in the music and not have to feel like you're selling your soul. But it's a thing. There's an awful lot of real sweet Christian people who live in the South in America who are the fan base for that, and also are fully not happy with hearing things calls for redistribution of income or.
Well, what about you? What if someone come up to you and said, "Well, it worked. All this canvassing worked. The party has won. They rule the country."
Yeah.
And also the continent. Somehow there were 2 elections at the same time.
All right, yeah.
Communism has won out.
Yeah.
I don't know why I keep saying communism. I don't really think this is exactly communist.
But you're talking about the communist Canadexit, where we all become... The revolution happens.
So they say that, and they go, but everybody just gets one guitar.
Yeah.
So...
Take them.
And actually, because you've had your guitar for so long, it's actually time for you to give your one guitar to someone else.
Take it.
Okay, so you're going to live by those principles. So then, so you've given your guitar away.
Yeah.
What are you doing next?
It's true. It's a very, very good question.
And then they say, how many baseball hats do you need?
It's true. It's true.
Got to just have one.
It's just one.
Actually, instead of the items everyone currently has, we've created these sort of generic items that everyone gets a certain amount of. So you're going to just give all your items to us. We're going to stow them away.
Yeah.
And recycle them and use them to power environmental.
That's right.
Do you ever wonder about the difficulty between... I think that we haven't even really faced the biggest conflict coming of the environmental crisis, which is it's the same thing all over, especially with America. It's if something is an industry, how do you can't just get rid of it,
right?
Most of the time,
it's really hard.
It's hard.
It's really hard.
People have jobs. They want to keep their money. They want to keep their stability. So it seems like there are hardliner environmentalists who are kind of like, you know what? Screw the coal miners. Screw drivers. Screw Asia.
Screw Asia. Yeah, they love that.
And just we have to change everything immediately.
Yeah.
And then someone explained to me that in Canada, the New Democratic Party, which has been primarily pro-union as it's one of its major bases of support, it is actually that's what limits it as an environmentally friendly party.
It's true, and they've been making all kinds of errors, I think, with the coal sands and all kinds of very limited range view kinds of policies supporting expansion of the fossil fuel industry for the sake of a few hundred jobs here and there. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny. Like, to me, one of the things about the capitalism that makes it a little less terrifying for thinking about change is that it's a system that's constantly in flux. So, for example, like so many of these, this is maybe a banal point, but like so many of the names like Smith or Cooper, like our friends have names of industries that went out of into obsolescence overnight.
So Cooper is someone who makes chicken coops.
That's right. Someone who makes the chicken coops.
Yeah.
That's right.
What is a Cooper?
A Cooper, I think,
is that like a croupier?
Somewhere between a croupier. It could be someone.
Croupier, is that a gambler?
Yeah, but doesn't it always sound like it should be dirtier? Like it should be like kind of I don't know, like a dungeon master.
Well, croupier is one of those names that was like a movie that was sort of erotic.
Like a Spader.
Circa 2004. No, oddly enough, more like that Jeffrey Wright, Marquis de Sade movie.
Yeah. Jeffrey Wright was he was getting some in the movie.
Jeffrey Rush.
Jeffrey Rush.
Both good actors.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Rush and Jeffrey Wright. Both employers of vocal. They can change their voices. They can change their
voices and not Rush the band. This is a different thing. This is Jeffrey Rush.
Jeffrey Rush. Remember him in Pirates of the Caribbean? He's like Yar.
Yeah, no, that movie was too scary for me. But I saw the posters and I have like a.
You don't like scary movies?
It's funny. I watched It the other day.
Oh no.
Yeah, I liked it.
Oh.
Yeah, no. So I maybe I'm coming around. I watched that one and I watched one of the newer Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Repeats.
Did you ever see the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do a lot with a little.
It's true. People who are sound artists, in another world I'm in, a little bit avant-garde music, they love that movie. They think of it as like one of the great.
Yeah, that's a great. The great sound design movies. I'll tell you right now, off the top of my head.
Yeah, boom.
2001.
Love it. Hal, right?
Yes, but also The Breathing, which I heard some Dana Carvey talking about on a podcast recently. The Breathing when they go out in space. And then on a similar...
Was that the first one that did the sort of like very calm, measured voice that was scary? Like don't go into space, George, or whatever. Like that was not the thing. Like it was sort of a...
Probably, yeah. Well, no, I think that kind of thing was probably happening in a lot of 1950s horror movies.
Right.
Like Day the Earth Stood Still isn't exactly like that, but there's a robot who speaks calmly in that movie.
Yeah, okay.
And...
sound design movies.
And
so, yeah.
robots,
yeah.
But no, that movie had The Breathing, and then and lots of other sound. But then Star Wars, you got to give it to Star Wars, right?
Dang, right. Remember when we were little, there were always documentaries they'd show you how they like banged on a fence to make the lightsaber sound or whatever?
I don't remember that when I was little, but I've seen that on YouTube.
Okay.
So
yeah. No, it was good. And Darth, that guy? He was super
Which
good.
is, like, the breathing was actually, that he does, is actually similar to in 2001. Yeah. So that was sound design of that before.
I have
But this lightsaber noise.
Oh, yeah.
Think of, would the special effects still hold up if the sound wasn't so amazing?
Right, I don't think so, yeah.
Because the sounds, if you hear something now, Avengers, Thor,
Ragnarok.
And Guardian, and others.
Yeah.
Ant-Man,
all those
and
movies.
all of it, the Wasp.
MCU.
And all the MCU stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The sound effects aren't exactly better than the first Star Wars.
Not at all.
And the prequels. So that is saying. Meanwhile, the special effects. Really, I don't know how Star Wars did it. The matte special effects, the matte stuff. I guess it's just the same as green screening. It's just like a much more old school version of it. Because it's like an actual painted background rather than graphics laid over a green thing. But the miniatures and and combined with the sound was just so perfectly it fooled everybody.
It's true. And so was that guy just like making this like tender movie about the 50s and like high school and stuff, and then thinking about these like clay models? Like, was that what was going
George
on there?
Lucas?
Yeah, what a weird guy, right?
Well, what happened was when I looked at Harrison and I thought, well, this guy's racing. So what if he, instead of a car, was actually racing a sort of like a pizza that somebody had carved a rectangle out of on the side. And, and then I said, Harrison, would you be interested? And then he said, actually, I'm filming Apocalypse Now right now. I have this one scene where I'm reading something. And do you like that George Lucas is slowly turning into, I don't even know who he's like.
He's sort of turning into Harrison Ford and then kind of like on the way to, I don't know, William S. Burroughs or something. Yeah.
And then I said they would never find another snake in the negaverse through usual means, the means of the mind, the means of the body, and the means of the anus.
Do you fucks with William S. Burroughs, as the kids say?
Do I fucks with William S. Burroughs? You said you were 44?
Yeah, I can't use that, can I? Can I
But-
say yeet? I know yeet is off limits.
All
right?
you can say is word up. I don't even know what's yeed.
Yeet, Y-E-E-T, they tell me it's like a youth slang.
Just don't call anybody sis, S-I-S, Then you're probably going to be fine. Don't tweet out, oh, yeah, sis. Right there with you, sis.
Yeah.
No, you can say whatever you want, man.
Yeah.
Yeet.
Yeah.
You can say Jesus. You can say...
It's just like that's like a Zach Galifianakis.
Make any
Jesus,
noise.
like
And any noise or word is cool, man.
Yeah.
This is a safe, free speech zone.
Think of all the 44-year-olds, like when Woodstock happened and they were all saying groovy and stuff, how humiliating that must have been.
Well, yeah, I know what you mean, but like, there's something about the hippie vibe because of the beatniks.
Yeah.
That there were like old people were allowed. I think old people have always been allowed in new stuff.
You're right.
Because people go, oh, that's, who's an old guy? That's, Duke Ellington.
Right, that's Duke Ellington, right, yeah.
Ornette Coleman's like, no, that's Duke Ellington. He's cool.
Here's my question.
No, wait, we wanted to go on about do I fucks with...
William S. Burroughs, yeah. You spent time with those books, all those hard to read
Well,
books?
my parents had an early print of Naked Lunch that I unfortunately basically wrecked that would probably be worth money. And of course I tried to read Naked Lunch because I was like 14 and William S. Burroughs, this guy shot his wife in the head and was a heroin addict and was gross, and he was a countercultural hero in the 1990s.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know,
Working
he was
with, Kurt Cobain.
Yeah. So we had Nova Express and Naked Lunch, and I read those books, and you know, I couldn't, obviously, there's no way of making sense of Nova Express. And if you haven't read Nova Express, that's the one where he, like, cut up newspapers and just put words next to each other, and then that was the book, if I recall.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And Naked Lunch also sounds like that. But Naked Lunch is, like, one of those things where, like, there's a lot of really cool, like, imagery and turns of phrases. Yeah. So it's kind of neat.
It's kind of like half Dune, half... like kind of acidy Lenny Bruce, right? That's
sort of, yeah. I mean, it has definitely, like, it's acidic in, like, multiple meanings of the word. It's, like, hallucinatory, but it's also very cynical and bleak and humorous in its own way, I guess. Right. But, yeah, the one I liked was Junkie. I mean, he has these two books that are more, like, straightforward prose, Queer and Junkie. I'm sure he has more than that. But, yeah, so I liked Junkie, but I haven't reread Junkie. But I'm sure Junkie's good. And, you know, I always just... Unfortunately, my thinking has been so shaped by, you know, my parents, but especially my dad was so vocal about what he liked and didn't like. So you talk about William Burroughs and be like, you know, he'd just be like, he's this rich guy who, like, lived in Tangiers and, like, was, like, not... Like, he just wrote about, like, really horrific things. And so... What is that adding of value? And it's like, well, part of me sees that, you know, but then another part of me says, well, some of it's okay. And I remember one of the first times, inspiration for this podcast, Mark Maron was at a comedy festival, and for some reason we got on the subject of Burroughs. Like, I met him, I'd never met him before, and I'd been listening to his podcast a bit, and he was like, yeah, man, Burroughs, you want to check out some Burroughs? It's good. You gotta listen, you gotta read, Armies of the Night. Yeah, that's a trilogy he did. Yeah, man. Those cats back in the 80s, they really... Oh, man. You know, Boomer used to always just meow when be reading the book, and he'd levitate over me and put his paws on my head and knead my head. And then I'd look into his eyes. Next thing I know, book's on fire. Book's on fire, man. You know, those cats, they really knew how to swing.
I used to listen to Mark Maron, like, on the Air America days.
Air America.
Yeah.
Air America.
Air America. Yeah, people forget about that. There was this weird thing where, like, Al Gore made the station and you could listen to Rachel Maddow.
Do people forget about that? Maybe, I mean, does anyone who knew about that forget about that? No, I think it's just that not everybody knew about it.
Yeah, they didn't know about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very weird. It wasn't a good station.
I didn't even know how to listen to that. Yeah. I feel like it was on... like it was American, so I didn't check it out.
Yeah, I would be like driving around when I was living in Texas or California, and like the only thing you could get clear would be, you know, Rush Limbaugh or Laura Ingraham and Sean Hannity. You'd listen to that as long as you could before wanting to kill yourself, and then you'd flip over and there would be like, you know, Chuck D. But it was always like Chuck D interviewing like, I don't know, like Bart Stupak.
Hi, this is Chuck D.
Chuck D interviewing like, I don't know, Jimmy Carter. It was not, they're never interviewing someone equally cool, you know? So I think we can say that Jimmy Carter.
Today we'll be talking to this agricultural financier, Doug Stone.
Doug Stone. And you know, what does Doug Stone have to say to us?
What does he have to say to Chuck D?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I also think it's funny to have someone like Mark Maron on who's essentially just like plug him in anywhere, he'll complain. That's but it's about politics.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, and then Janine Garofalo, she's really fascinating to me. She really put herself on the line back in those days. Yeah, you know, more than almost any of the other... She was probably the most famous, easily, of... You know, not Al Franken, who is also on that. Yeah, so that channel basically employed a bunch of comedians who either were famous in the case of Janine Garofalo and Al Franken, or were known, and a lot of the people got more into politics. Sam Cedar is now... He's still pretty funny, actually. I was watching some... I listened to the Majority Report, like, obsessively. It's not healthy. Sam Cedar hosts the Majority Report.
But you don't fucks with the Young Turks.
I do. I mean, I don't. Like, but they're part of the Young Turks, so and they interview the people from the Young Turks. Right. But I don't know. Are the Young Turks named after the people who committed the Armenian genocide?
Something like that.
I've been trying to wrap my head around why that would happen, and it must not be that simple because I don't think you could just call it that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what the case is they're Turkish, right? Many of the original.
But I think Anna Kasparian might actually be Armenian.
Oh yeah, well that would make sense. That on the yeah. I think it's a weird one. I've never caught on to them exactly. They always seemed a little a little opaque.
I feel when I started watching, when I was watching YouTube years ago, they'd be like recommending those videos, and it would just be, it would be like Good Day Live. It would just be, it felt like it was just people talking about, pop culture news or something, and then it suddenly became this other thing, and I didn't even realize they were, political for a long time, and I guess I just don't want to hear like an overbearing big guy, no offense, talk about politics. You're not that type of overbearing big guy. I don't find you overbearing at all.
Well, thank you.
You're bearish.
A little bearish, yeah.
You're not overbearing.
I've crossed over. I can pass in the bear world if I have to.
Why not?
But no, it's true. There was such a market. There was such a lane there for a while for really loudmouth, kind of unctuous. Sort of semi-comedians of the Young Turk type.
I mean, I don't know. Are those guys comedians? I feel like, I can't even tell anymore. There's lots of different corners now. You got leftist YouTube. You got atheist YouTube.
You got Crowder, Louder with Crowder.
You've got Steven Crowder. I got nothing to say about
you fucks with Steven Crowder.
You got Dave Rubin. What do you think of Dave Rubin?
Yeah, he's definitely one of my least favorite Rubins. Way down, even from Rick Rubin, who I know has been canceled several times.
Wait, why was Rick Rubin canceled?
Don't remember, but I remember it happened.
It's because he worked with Dice?
Could be the Dice thing.
I like Dice.
Dice in that Star is Born was amazing. Do you see that? He was so good, such a good performance.
But he was like, hey, we just had a baby. Look at her. She's a star.
That's what it was. With the
she's a fucking star. And then I made the goo come out. And then the lady was born and she's a star. She's a fucking star.
That's what it was like. It was so good.
And then, he was also in Blue Jay. He's good.
Yeah, he's good.
But it's really hard to say. He's one of those guys who'll go, oh yeah, Dice, I love Dice. And then someone will be like, really? Here's something he did. And you're like, yeah, I mean, I love him. Yeah. But I know that now you hate me because there's some clip of him saying something horrible. Yeah. It's like Howard Stern. I like Howard Stern. And then someone will be like, hey, here's 8 hours of Howard Stern doing like an Amos and Andy voice. And you go, well, it was a similar time to now in terms of how close to the present it was.
So here's the thing with Howard Stern. Like occasionally I'll see a Howard Stern clip, and it seems like it's all about these like frustrated, horny dudes with their women in the studio, and they're kind of like miffed on how they should interact with.
Well, that was an era of Howard Stern.
That wasn't all of that, because that's all
I was like kind of bored with. Yeah. They did lots of really bad things. Okay. They would do laser pointer judgments of women's bodies. Like they'd come in and ask. But the whole idea was that it was based on the idea that people would come in and subject themselves to this, and isn't that crazy?
Right.
That was like the logic behind doing all of this, but I don't know if that's an argument for doing all of that.
That was the logic of all culture, though, at that time. I don't know if we could single them out.
I think it's probably still like that.
Still kind of
like that. People are basically like, judge me right now. I'm on YouTube. Judge me right now. This is my Instagram. It's all just... that, and I would rather, and it's always been like that. I was talking about that with my friend, like we were talking about video game emulators, and how as soon as the internet really grew, it's like, well, video game emulators grew so that you didn't have to buy a system, you could just play it on your tricked out PC tower.
Oh jeez.
With a great Trinitron screen.
Love it.
And coaxial cables connecting it.
Yeah, you got
to
the
coaxials.
modem. Yeah, totally.
And
I don't know anything about this world, but I like these words.
On it.
Yeah, I like that.
Put stickers. That. That's how you know you're dealing with a true rebel. Stickers on electronics.
Yeah. And stickers. Remember stickers on guitars? That was a big thing.
Stickers on guitars.
For the kind of Blink-182 generation of punk guitarists always had to have lots of stickers.
My friend Mike's band, he's playing with the original guitarist from his band when he was 13. So Jim is playing on this guitar, and it's got all these stickers of Toronto bands from the early to mid 90s. So it's Chicken Milk.
Chicken Milk. You gotta have some Chicken Milk.
Venus Cures All.
Love it. Yeah.
All these different bands.
But those are really kind of hip, quality bands. You're not talking about bands I'm trying to think of who we would agree on as.
I mean,
you're not
Moist
more
something.
like Big Sugar or something. No. You're
talking Big Sugar's kind of cool. Drives Like Hell.
I guess.
Remember that song?
Yeah.
Big Rude Jake.
There
was a singer blues guy, but he was also I think he was also a crooner during the crooner period of time.
Swing dance, yeah.
Remember the crooner days?
Right, that was so ferociously horrible.
Do you remember the time? They'd cover...
Yeah, they'd cover...
hit songs of the day.
Yeah. Remember the Honey Drippers? That was a kind of amazing thing, because it was pre-crooners, and it was amazing. It was like Robert Plant and people doing these 50 songs. And
with Alison Krauss?
Totally rock. No, pre-Alison Krauss, it was
So it'd be like Robert Plant going angel, of angel.
Yeah, that's what it was, and it was.
Will you be mine?
Yeah, that was what it was. And okay, check this out. It slapped.
Slapped. Yeah, that's another one.
No,
I mean, it's not that people can't say these words. It's that these words shouldn't be said. They're from the internet. They're words that people wrote, and then when you try to say them in real life, they don't sound right.
They don't.
And the first example of that was the word "stan."
Oh yeah.
Which I used to hear. After the song "Stan" came out, not that long after. No, it was after the song "Ether" by Nas came out. In the song "Ether," his diss against Jay-Z, his diss track against Jay-Z, where he dissed up Jay-Z. We used to say diss. Don't diss me up. That was what we said as kids.
Yeah.
Don't diss me up.
Yeah, that was hardcore.
So Nas, at one point goes, "You're a fake, a phony, a fraud, a stan," or something like that. But he calls him a stan. So after he does that, and that song has this humongous impact, on to be specific, the allhiphop.com message boards that I lurked, which were called the Ill Community.
Yeah.
People started calling each other stans. You're a cannabis stan.
You're a cannabis stan.
And I think Cannabis actually put out a song called "I'm Stan" or something when he was trying to feud with Eminem.
Okay.
But
so he's the crazy obsessive fan.
So I never heard anyone say the word "stan" out loud until maybe even 5 years later. Someone was, and to me that's a microcosm of what's scary about the internet, which is that people spend so much time rehearsing being a certain way on message boards or videos that then they bring it into the real world, and there is the problem.
There's the problem. Yeah. We shouldn't say some of these things.
You are not ballet dancers. You do not have to rehearse. You don't have to rehearse.
Yeah.
You don't have to rehearse at all.
No, you don't have to.
Just to be a person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's I've never heard anybody say it slaps, I've never, in a good way, yeet. I did like it back in the day. It was a West Coast slang. People go church.
Oh yeah, church.
Yeah.
That was so the Meek Mill song, right? Which kind of brought that.
What's that called? I'm a Meek Mill.
It's I think church is in the chorus to that, but church was really good. Some of those slang words, but Ken, once they reach their kind of ripeness, you feel terrible at ever having used them, and then you go into a whole shame spiral.
We're gonna have to leave soonish because you have something to do.
I gotta go see you.
So I want to ask you something before we go on. Sure, you don't have to play a song quite yet, but I do want to hear a song later.
Yeah.
You are a devout leftist.
Truth. Yep.
Have you watched Pamela Anderson talking to Meghan McCain on The View. Did you check that out?
I saw the GIFs or GIFs, and I've followed Pamela Anderson's sort of political trajectory well enough that I pretty much know, I think, what it was.
Well, I'll tell you, because I watched the whole thing.
Okay, yeah.
So what Pammy did, they call her Pammy, if you remember.
That's her name, yeah.
She's our fellow citizen. Mm-hmm. So she comes out, she says she seems weird. She definitely seemed weird. All right. God bless her. Yeah. But she seems weird.
I'll say I'm on her side. I'm like super...
I want her to win.
Yeah, me too, yeah.
But, so, first of all, if you go past her dating history, it's like, I don't know if Julian Assange is that good, just based on every single person she's ever dated, basically, being bad also.
It was the Brett one that really broke my heart.
Well, that was years ago that she dated Bret Michaels.
Yeah.
That she had a sex tape with Bret Michaels is the embarrassing thing.
That's pretty embarrassing.
But Tommy Lee is like pretty embarrassing. Kid Rock is pretty embarrassing. Rick Salomon is terrible. And then there's like another guy, and she talks about that with them. And she talks about how she lives on Vancouver Island, which is really cool. And she says, you do the circle and you come right back to where you started. And then she gets into talking to not just Meghan McCain, the whole thing. People want their wishes fulfilled. So everyone hates Meghan McCain right now. So suddenly it's like, oh, Pamela Anderson destroys Meghan McCain. Yeah. She's been destroyed. It's great seeing Meghan McCain ripped apart. And don't get me wrong, Meghan McCain she's awful.
They're pretty loathsome person, yeah.
Well, she's just like... It's just like a waste of space, It's like, there's no reason she needs to have this high a profile. And I don't know if any of the other people on The View do, but at least you can say, well, Joy Behar, she worked very hard to get there.
She's on Dr. Katz?
She's on Dr. Katz. And
when was Meghan McCain ever on Dr. Katz?
Well, she did write a book with Michael Ian Black. And
that's true. That's so true.
Yeah. And... there was like a moment where Meghan McCain was like very adjacent. Like it was this period. It was essentially the beginning of this period of conservative values. Also, as long as you thought gay people were you had gay friends, it was like you could hang out with I don't know, like you could hang out with
the Stella comedy troupe.
I guess Stella, yeah, and
that's not nothing.
No, they're cool.
Yeah,
I guess. And no, they are. I opened for Michael Showalter once. He was very nice.
He seems like kind of a nice guy.
I mean, people say different things. But I shouldn't say that. He was really nice. We follow each other on Twitter.
Yeah.
But, and also, the Michael Showalter show was wild because I had people talking to me about that years later. Stopped me on the street. I saw you open for Michael Showalter. That was really good. I think it's because he was performing in Canada so rarely that, it was just... pretty memorable for everybody. Anyway.
He had some of those high-profile hits. He was on Sex and the City.
He's doing great. And, so Pamela Anderson is starts talking about U.S. war crimes, which is cool. Yeah. She's talking about, how, like, there's all these horrible things that have happened. That's all Julian Assange does, is expose them, and that she's been in France and Canada, and people aren't very happy with the U.S. It's all, like... basically the kind of thing any Canadian is going to hear from, like, somebody at a cottage that's got, if more than 5 people are at a bar with you,
right?
One person is going to be, like, stoned and say a bunch of shit that you already know.
Yeah. That's right.
And, like, that's...
You're at trampoline hall, someone's going to pull you aside and say, hey, war crimes.
Yeah. And, like, it's great to say that. And, and then Meghan McCain is, like, she's just like, he's a traitor. He's a cyber terrorist. And then Joy Behar's like, well, wasn't she trying to... people say that it was weird that she released the tapes. He released the Hillary Clinton information, like, right before the election.
Yeah.
And, and Pamela Anderson's like, well... it's just stuff that happened, and why wouldn't you release it? He doesn't care. He just releases anything he thinks is wrong. And I don't know. What do you think, first of all, of Pamela Anderson versus Meghan McCain in the context that I have summarized it for you?
Right. Well, I hate that. Yeah, every time there's someone who seems like they're verging on, like, true kind of coolness, they end up like kind of in the celebrity realm. They end up being kind of like an anti-vaxxer or like a pro Assanger or something like that. It's no good.
She is an anti-vaxxer.
Yeah, she is too. Yeah. That's not good. I loathe Julian Assange. I think he's a terrible guy, and it seems like he like for sure was a total sex pest in all sorts of ways, and like this whole thing.
Sex pesto.
And also
just putting it out there. A seasoned.
That's right.
Sex pest.
Like with a little basil and Parmesan cheese. Not so bad.
Basil Rathbone. Sherlock Holmes.
Basil.
If Sherlock Holmes had been on the case,
right.
He would have solved all of the war crimes.
Right. I'm just saying. So, but I do like the idea of Meghan. Like Meghan McCain now is just sort of just a general. She starts spewing this crazy stuff, which is always like this amalgam of like defense of her father, and then like her own bizarre twisted relationship with her husband, how much they love guns, and how terrified they are of like Elizabeth Warren. And so I guess as a kind of a running spectacle, I find the like abject situation of Meghan McCain to be interesting. And I guess Pamela Anderson is just the like the dummy, whatever the like person plugged into that apparatus for the time being.
I don't even think Pamela Anderson is stupid.
No, I think she's pretty bright. She was in that show about a bookstore. Remember that? Stacked? It's called Stacked.
I do remember that. I mean, I don't think she's that smart.
Yeah.
I just think she's just like your typical Canadian.
Yeah.
She's like a stoned idiot, like all of us,
Yes,
That's
like, right, just a stoned idiot.
Yeah, she's just I don't think she's stoned, but I just mean like perma-stoned,
Yeah. You say
Vancouver people, dude. British Columbians.
Yeah.
Not if any listeners of mine are from British Columbia, I don't mean it like all British Columbians are a certain way, but there is a weedy. British Columbia is one of the first weed people in Canada.
Yeah,
and
in a way, in the world, probably,
possibly in the entire world. And they were like
beautiful
places.
Yeah.
So environmentalism and like definitely anti-vaccine. I mean, everything was so much more aligned at one point, where it's like the idea that the government was poisoning you with drugs was something that someone who believed that manufacturing consent was like an incredibly important book would also possibly think.
That's right.
Because it's true.
Yeah.
But it's also nuanced.
Yeah.
So it's like, the opioid epidemic is absolutely the fault of probably the U.S. government and all these pharmaceutical companies, and the overprescription of maybe antidepressants or even ADHD pills as the only what's pointed as one of the only means of managing depression or ADHD.
But keep those pills
probably
coming.
exists.
Hashtag keep them coming.
But we need those drugs. Those specific drugs are like, they're getting people out of bed.
Getting on podcasts.
Stopping people from getting bonked by people, other people. But that's a very small percentage of mentally ill people.
Yeah.
There are mentally ill people who, without their drugs, would just bop you on the head. But it's like 1 in 10,000. Very low. But they would bonk you.
Yeah.
And now the drugs saving you from being bonked.
I think that's really good. Do you think Pamela Anderson has all that BC rain gear? It's all kind of like yellow and there's a lot of buckles and it's sort of a little dommy.
She's probably done photo shoots in those rain gear. But so I just think the problem is just that Pamela Anderson and Meghan McCain should not even be having a conversation about any of this stuff. Or they should, but it shouldn't necessarily be like the main conversation about this that everybody is talking about on Twitter.
Yes. That's great.
It's
No, the philosopher Jacques Rancière wrote this book called Disagreements, which I like very much, which is about how these kinds of conversations are in fact impossible because like Meghan McCain and Pamela Anderson don't even agree that white is white and black is black. They don't share enough terms in common to have a productive conversation.
That's a great point. Yeah. But when that is happening widespread in the world right now, what's the solution?
That's our situation. That's right.
What's the solution?
So, But we go back to the old sort of, radical solutions, I think, right?
Oh boy, that sounds very
yep.
gulag-esque.
That's getting your podcast license yanked.
So, we gotta go, but you gotta go. You got things to do. Thank you for bearing with the hour it took for me to sort out emailing my newsletter.
No problem.
So, what can you tell me about this song, Kurt?
I'm going to play the song called Whiskey Before Breakfast.
Are you going to sing?
No singing, just play.
Can I sing an intro?
Absolutely. So just, you can imagine what a song... I don't know what the lyrics are, but there probably were lyrics to the song. Whiskey, probably written around the Civil War.
Try it. Okay. Stay up so late that it's technically morning. So the whiskey I had at 4 a.m. counts as whiskey before breakfast. Now breakfast is gonna taste different because milk and whiskey don't go together. Milk and whiskey are like soup and tacos. Sometimes it happens, but it's very unorthodox. Thank you. That's the intro.
Forgetting the B part. Here we go.
Whiskey before breakfast.
Beautiful. Just like our grandparents sang it.
Oh, that was a real hootenanny.
It's good. I think Homer liked it.
Thank you, Kurt.
Thanks, buddy. High five. Boom. All right, we're playing tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow we'll be at the Transac at 3 p.m. If you're listening to this today or tomorrow before 3 p.m., come to the Transac in Toronto at 3. If not, we'll do it again.
Right on.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Peace.